I'm Nate. I'm the founder of 3000. So we're Melbourne-based. Actually, we started in Melbourne, but moved to the UK a few months later. That was just before COVID. So I've been growing my brand here for the last 4 years. Very excited to have this chat with Galanacci. I've actually never sat down and had a conversation with another designer in a setting like this before. And I'm very excited to see the questions that the guys have put up for us. So yeah, keen.
So yeah, I'm very excited. This is Ready to Talk. I'm going to be talking to Nate, and it'll be nice to actually see and kind of like hear how he's approached his brand, and then bounce off ideas, because obviously I'm also a brand owner, and then just share ideas and just vibe out.
So who are you and what do you do?
So I'm Galanacci, an artist, designer, creator, and I'm the founder of the luxury human wear brand Galanacci.
Sick.
How about you?
I'm Nate. I'm the founder of 3000. We're a Melbourne brand, but are now based in London. We've started the brand in London.
So what made you decide to start your own clothing brand, or streetwear brand actually?
So I started a brand with like a few friends in uni, like me and two other guys, and it was just we just wanted to do something cool, and like we really had like brands that we really fucked with at the time, and we just thought, yeah, let's give it a go ourselves. But quickly learned that like doing business with friends at like a young age, when like money's tight, ideas are flowing and stuff, was just like not. It just didn't work out for several reasons, and then I actually was never intending to build another brand myself at that point, and that's when I decided. I was like, oh, let's just go to London and try something new. And then like 4 months before I left, I just had an idea of starting it's meant to be like a blanks brand or something, like, because I started really getting into that like oversized aesthetic, or that boxy fit aesthetic with like thick cotton and all the stuff that everyone's doing nowadays anyway. And so I just gave it a crack and started something new in the hopes that I could grow it in London. So yeah, it was more just like a personal challenge for me, to be honest. And like the brand represents, or the brand name 3000 is based on the Melbourne city postcode, and the fact that I was moving to London. I wanted to bring something from home back to the UK and kind of demonstrate this like kid from Oz could create a brand and like come to London and create something special. So yeah, that's kind of why I started my brand, I guess. And the meaning has not changed. Like the meaning's still the same. Like I'm still trying to like not as obviously, but I'm still trying to demonstrate that like you can come into London and you can like build a network for yourself from the ground up with a brand new brand, and like get people like excited. So yeah, it's been an amazing experience, to be honest. What about you?
It was a journey too, right? Like it wasn't a thing that I was like, yeah, I'm gonna start a brand. It was like a gradual change.
You kind of fall into it, yeah.
Yeah, I fell into it. But I think the very root of it would be when I was in architecture school and I started seeing Virgil Abloh, Samuel Ross, and what gravitated me to Virgil was he had an architecture background. So I was like, oh, there's a link. And I like what he was doing. So I was like, oh, maybe this is something I could get into. But then that was just me dreaming. Like it wasn't like, yo, I'm gonna do it. Because I wanted to be an architect at that time. And then it's just like a gradual shift. Like literally, it took years. I'm like literally years, like 2 years, to the point where, okay, you know what? Let's just fucking do it. Cause like, it's either now or never.
Did you use any of the like I didn't know you used to be an architect. That's cool. Or like you studied architecture.
Sorry,
Did you use any of that like design element from like your architectural background into like the brand in like the early stages? Because like, you got like Sammy Ross and stuff who do a lot of like, I don't know, you can kind of, it's very
stuff.
design and technical heavy
yeah.
when you design something, right? It's not like as simple as like what I do, what a lot of other people do. But that's because that background is quite technical. So do you see that like in your brand?
Yeah, it's more of like the design thinking, because obviously in architecture school you learn how to approach design. They teach you how to approach design in itself, and it's more like in stages the way I approach it. So there's a brief, and then you have your concepts, and then you slowly refine those concepts, develop the designs to the point where, okay, these are the things that I'm gonna push out. There'll be like the final designs and whatnot. So it's like a very strategic approach to it, and very rigid, because there's a process that I follow, and I applied those kind of design thinking within the way I approach with my brand. And also within architecture school, they teach you to design with purpose, because obviously you're designing a building for people to use. And then so you have to think of how the space is used, the atmosphere, the materiality that you use, the even like the scale, how big the building is, how small it is. It's just like thinking about the five senses, how the actual space can interact with those senses. And I try to kind of like weave those kind of design thinking into how I approach designing my own brand, or even just developing my brand.
Yeah, what makes your brand special? That's a good question.
There's a lot of elements, because even with the name Galanacci, it's a blend between my surname Galan and then the Italian mathematician Fibonacci. The funny thing is,
I thought you were Italian, to be honest.
yeah. And most people say that,
Yeah.
but nah, it's just I was watching Prison Break, and then I heard the word Fibonacci, and I was like, yo, that's lit. And then it just kind of like stuck in my head. But then during this time, it was like the time where one word usernames on Instagram was like it sounds legit. Like if you have a one word, it just looks legit. So back then, it was just like a username for me, like an alias, online alias. I was like, oh, Galanacci, that sounds lit. Like I wasn't even thinking about no designs, no art, no nothing like that, nothing creative. It was just literally an online username. But then I would say the special thing about it is Fibonacci, the Italian mathematician. There's this mathematical theory, the Fibonacci sequence. It's all about growth. So, and I didn't even know it back then, right? But it's only now that I noticed like the kind of like connection, because the way I approach my own brand, it's about self-discovery and greatness, and the way my brand has developed, it's through the growth, the experiences, and that kind of ties in with the actual name, which kind of is mind-blowing, because I didn't even like premeditate that. It's just intuition. I was like, you know what, I'll just have this and whatnot. How about you?
Cool. Yeah, I mean, wish my meaning was a bit deep like that.
That's cool, man.
I have Googled like the meaning of the number 3000. I think I had something cool, but didn't end up using it. I had like a number meaning or something like that. It was a bit lame at the time. I was trying to think like, oh, was there something I can do here? No, I think the thing that makes my brand special, I think it just comes like it's unique in a sense that like a lot of people that I meet in the UK sometimes just think I'm British or I'm from here or whatever else. So like it's not like I have to explain that I'm from Melbourne and I came here, I started my brand. Like that's a nice story, and I think it's quite a unique story.
That's true. Yeah.
So I think that's what makes my brand different, and I think like different brands end up becoming special brands, and I think that's how I would say my brand is special. And it's a full representation of me as well, which is like
that's cool.
I think that's difficult to do as a brand sometimes. Like it's easy to like separate your brand and yourself, but like I've just been like quite true to that from the get-go.
That's true. That's cool. Would you say that where you're at right now, you're still in the early stages, or
100%, yeah.
Cool.
I like I don't know, I try not to like compare myself to other brands, and like I think that like you can get really down on yourself when you try to look at the brand in stages. And I've always got this like perception or this like attitude that like whenever I'm about to give up, there would have been thousands of other people who would have given up, and therefore if I keep going, then I'm ahead of those thousands of people. So like anytime I'm feeling like like it's not working out, like I've done absolutely terrible drops in the past, like where I've had like I could just receive like barely any love, and I had to probably like mix a marketing strategy and the design, whatever it might be. And there's times where you really just want to be like, fuck this, like, it's not worth it anymore. Like you're down like thousands of pounds and you're just like, what am I doing with this? I could be on holidays, I could just be using this money on other shit. But then you kind of just got to remember why you're doing it. So I'd say, yeah, definitely in the early stages, because like the first 2 years, like COVID was almost a write-off. I was trying to like settle in the UK for like 12 months as well. And it's only in the last like 18 months, maybe even less, that I've actually like kicked it into gear, and I've just kind of
Stuff.
really focused on like everything perfectly. I didn't even know what perfect was. I probably thought I was doing it perfectly at the start, but like, yeah, I feel like I just kind of reset 18 months ago, if that makes sense. And yeah, it's not long at all. So definitely in the early stages.
And how long has your brand been around?
It was 29, the end of 2019 I started.
Okay.
So it's coming up to 4 years now. It was like very shortly before I moved to the UK.
So that's crazy because you moved to the UK and yeah, you started
Yeah, it was
brand.
it was a ballsy move. It was a pretty
Yeah.
stupid move, to be honest, because I like didn't think about how long it would actually take to settle. And when you're settling in a new country, you're not trying to like sell clothes, right? That's kind of,
yeah.
it was high on my priority list, but so was like finding a flat, trying to pay rent, like
exactly,
trying to find a
exactly.
job, all that sort of, and then COVID happened. So yeah, about it all kind of played a role in the brand, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
I
yeah.
don't discount any of that. Like I don't regret any of that. It's all
Yeah, because
kind of
it's like
just,
it's our constraints that kind of shape us, even with the brands and whatnot.
yeah. I think
Yeah.
like lockdown and stuff. Like I hated it. Like it wasn't good, but it gave me like an opportunity to put my head down because like I had no work, so couldn't find a full-time job. I was like just stressing about everything, and I like had so much time to just like digest information and like learn how to use Illustrator and kind of watch podcasts and listen to shit on Spotify and everything like that. So I think that was like a massive turning point for me, even though at the time it felt like the worst time. But
It's funny that you
don't know how we
mentioned
got
that.
onto this topic, but
Yeah,
it's a good topic.
no, because it just feeds in. No, because it's funny because like for me as well, like COVID times was like one of the shift in my kind of like mindset. Even then, back then I didn't have a fashion brand. I was just like trying to reconnect with my artistic side. So trying to get into because I paint, I draw back then. And so when the COVID happened, that's when I quit architecture. And then I was trying to get in touch with my artistic side. And I did like a portrait a day type of thing.
I saw that, yeah.
Yeah, I filled like an old diary that I had with portraitures of like people that inspired me, things like that. And it's funny because like it's doing those things informed the stuff that I do. So that is funny. It's not even fashion, but then that evolved into fashion.
Yeah, it's like Lego blocks in a way, right? You just kind of build
Yeah,
up all the
yeah,
shit
yeah.
and you doesn't seem like anything at the time.
Yeah,
And then like
exactly,
all of a
exactly.
sudden you're like built something like, oh, okay.
Yeah,
I
because
can work with this.
Yeah, because you could be randomly placing the blocks, but then when you kind of like step back, you're like, oh shit, now it's something.
Yeah, like I studied finance in uni, and like so many times in the early days I was like, why the fuck did I study finance? Like it's taught me like accounting and finance specifically, which like I thought I learned nothing, and I thought it was just like it wasn't creative. Like why did I do that? I should have just studied something like what I love to do. But like now actually owning a business and being in business, when things start to get a bit more serious, and like when you actually have to budget for like the pop-up I did, that costs quite a bit. And I think if I didn't know how to budget or how to spend my money or how to like calculate what I needed to do, it would have just been an absolute shit show. I think I got so many organization skills from that as well.
Yeah, no, that's interesting because now it makes sense
It's like
that
same with you with architecture, right? Like
yeah, no, it makes sense that you move in here and then you started a brand. How you were able to manage that? Because obviously you have to find rent and all of that, pay rent. So it makes sense that all those skills that you learned actually kind of like helped you balance those things that you were doing when you were starting your brand.
Exactly.
That's interesting. Very interesting.
So you never. I think the moral is don't regret kind of things you've done.
Yeah, exactly. Because they all feed
So
in.
at the time you wanted to do it, and obviously had an interest in it.
Mm-hmm.
And like,
yeah.
That's what I tell people anyway. So. All right. So if you could make one change to the fashion industry, what would it be?
That's a good question.
Yeah.
It would be the whole point. One of the things that my brand is doing, it's elevating clothing to the point where it's a catalyst for pursuit of greatness. So instead of just looking fly, why can't it be a a way to provoke people to think about their own purpose and those things. I mean, it's already out there. It exists. Like, it's not a new idea, but people would use it to provoke certain movements and whatnot. But this one is more introspection, and I think it would benefit fashion because clothing is the most intimate object that we own. We wear it on our body. It's a form of self-expression, and we go out wearing it. Like, people see it. We're literally a walk-in canvas when we dress and kind of show our personalities through our clothing. And we can just basically push better message with the clothing instead of it just being like, I want to look cool.
I think for me, it would just be like the knowledge piece. Like, I don't think there's a lot of focus on like mid-size and big-size designers, but there's not much for the little guys and newcomers. And like, to kind of get from a little guy to a even medium guy or an up and coming is very, very difficult. Like, the funnel goes from like millions to like tens in that stage, and that, I think, is purely because people, A, don't know what they're getting into, and B, don't know how to do it or don't have the connections to do it. I think there's like not much out there from a professional point of view that can help people get there, if that makes sense.
Actually,
besides if you study fashion design.
Mike Amiri, he has his own foundation. Samuel Ross has his own foundation. I think more designers
like that stuff
up
would be
there,
sick.
They should start their own foundations to help the next kind of upcoming. Because, man, I'm sure when they were upcoming like us, I bet they wish that someone like helped them.
Yeah, 100%.
So why wouldn't you start a foundation to help the next person? Because why wouldn't you want to help when now you're in a position where you can give help?
Yeah, that's what I mean. Just that gap between like us and someone like them is massive.
Yeah.
So like, how do you like connect with those people to get there? So mentoring and all that stuff is like sick.
Do you think that the fashion industry is collaborative?
Not really, to be honest. I feel like when it comes to collaborations, there's sometimes like a sense of like clickiness. Like, people might only collaborate with their friends.
100%.
And like, I think if you don't have a network, sometimes you really, like, no one's going to want to collaborate with you. But like, if you do have a network, then people will obviously bring you up. And like, anyone can have a network. So I think, like, it's not like a woe is me type thing or anything. Like, it's not, like, it just happens, right? I think it happens in every industry. Like, if you know people, it gets you places, sort of thing. In terms of collaboration, I just think there's so much out there, and so many people have like poorly collaborated as well, that it's kind of fucked up the industry. Like, you got, like, everyone always says, I don't want to collaborate for the sake of collaborating. Like, that's just like, every designer says that. And it's like, sometimes that's just such a blanket statement that doesn't really have much meaning, right? I think like you're missing the point if that's kind of your attitude. Like, there's deeper ways to collaborate than just combining on a design, which I think is the bog standard. Let's collaborate suggestion or whatever. But I don't know. I think for me personally, it's not been very collaborative. But I think if I was in the UK for another 1 or 2 years, it could get there. I just think you kind of need to work on the relationships a bit more.
Yeah.
So it's very hard to get to a collaborative state.
Yeah, because with collaborations, like, you have to be both on the same page.
Yeah, I almost think it's better to collaborate with people who aren't in the fashion industry. I think more cool shit happens when a brand collaborates with something that's not another fashion brand.
Something new.
Yeah, I think that's probably where there's more potential.
That's true.
I think two brands can get a bit tricky sometimes and messy, and it's really only if you're super aligned that you would collaborate from a design point of view. But like, I mean, events and stuff, like all that shit, like, fine. I don't know why that wouldn't be.
Yeah,
there wouldn't be an opportunity there. Have you found it collaborative?
Collaborative. Actually, I would say yes, because with my own experiences, I was working with Yaboa for 2 years.
Oh yeah,
and they did a collaboration with Cause, and that was dope.
That's sick. Yeah,
that was a really good experience. and I got to see how an established brand cause works, and then how we bounced off ideas with Yaboa, which is like a back then three-man team. And but yeah, from that standpoint, yes, it's collaborative because obviously Reese Yaboa, founder of Yaboa, it kind of like shows you other ways to start a brand, because that was him launching his brand. So in a way, it's like, damn, that's
What
one
was his
way.
background? How did he get into that collaboration?
It turns out that the head of COS, who's involved in collaboration, like global collaborations, she was in one of Reese's talks. Like, he was just speaking at this event, and she was there. So she already knew of Reese's works, and I guess the past, well, I guess 2 years when I started working there. They kind of rekindled the connection, and then Reese presented this collection that we worked on for a collaboration.
Oh, so he pitched it to them.
Yeah, so I worked on the documents with Reese and Sash.
Wow.
So I did all the illustrations for the looks to present to COS. And then, yeah, they liked what we presented, and then we aligned on the designs, and then boom, it came into fruition. So yeah, at that standpoint, cool. It's collaborative. But it should be more like that.
Yeah.
Because Reese is obviously upcoming. It should be more like that. It should be giving these upcoming designers a chance to collaborate and put out their ideas.
Yeah.
Instead of
so it's like
the
reach.
Big ones already.
It's like reach, yeah.
Yeah, because like it's cool, because like the designers are already up there. They're up there. They can do their thing, but let the upcoming designers have their thing, because most of the time they have the cool ideas.
100%.
Like that are different, because obviously the designers that are already up there, you've already seen a lot of that. So just let the upcoming ones have a chance to put out their work.
Cool.
So for you, yeah, what is streetwear?
It's a good question. I feel like it's changed in the last kind of like, I don't know, like since I've been alive, really. Like streetwear went from quite simple and baggy, like had one sort of vertical, and now it's kind of encompasses like a ton of different things, like luxury streetwear and all the rest. For me, it's just like about being yourself, to be honest. Like that relaxed vibe, I guess. Not too serious. Kind of still out there, but still basic. So like, I feel like streetwear is probably one of the types of fashions where you can be extremely flexible, because it like dabbles in everything. So
how does that kind of bleed into your own brand? Because obviously you have your own brand, 3000.
Yeah, that's a good question. I started off quite basic. So I started with like hoodies, jumpers, like everyone does, t-shirts. And it's only like in the last few years where I started dabbling in new things like knitwear and kind of tried puffer jackets and all the rest. So I think I'm trending in the direction of trying to be a bit more unique, because I feel like it's easier to do that now. But yeah, you got to start somewhere and you got to learn the basics, right? But I'm definitely trying to evolve into that more unique kind of streetwear, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Because for me, it's pretty much the same as well. Like how I view streetwear, it's like very expressive. Like you can't really categorize it under one thing. Like, oh, this is, because then yeah, like you said, it's very, very, very broad. Because even with my own brand, like my own style, you can class it as streetwear in some bits, but then at some parts it's like something else.
Yeah. But what are those other bits you mix
it's like if I were for my brand, if I were to like describe the aesthetics of it, it would be like a mix of 70s, and then you throw in modern stuff.
So you get that retro type vibe, vintage look.
Yeah, like that, and then you throw in some futuristic stuff there too, and you blend that. So there's not really that set thing, but then it falls under the category of streetwear kind of thing. But for me, I call it a human wear, because I'm trying to elevate the streetwear from where Virgil has put it, because he pushed it in the luxury space, obviously. And then now I'm pushing it into the kind of like psychological realm, because I'm like thinking that streetwear could be a catalyst for something more. So like for me, for my brand, I'm trying to push the pursuit of greatness. And then I'm thinking clothes could be the catalyst for that.
Nice. So what do you think the streetwear space is missing at the moment?
That's a sick question.
Yeah, I like this question.
Yeah, that's actually a really good question because for me at least with my own brand, the whole kind of human wear that I'm trying to push out, it's because streetwear in itself, it's always been about the environment. That's why you call it street, right? So it's the subculture is within your environment. So it's like heavy on the hip hop. That's where it kind of streetwear started. So like the music, the bustling streets of like New York, stuff like that. So what I thought was missing in streetwear is it could be more than just the environment. Like it could be like a more introspection. So from instead of focusing on the surrounding, I was like, you know what? We need to focus inwards because when you think about it, when you deep anything or everything, all the answers that kind of click within us, it's all like internal. Like the surrounding helps us figure it out, but the answers has always been inside of us, type of thing. And that's how I kind of like view human wear. It's an elevation of what streetwear can be. Because right now it's more on the environment, like I said, and then obviously Virgil Abloh pushing it into the luxury space. Because now because streetwear is more of like a quick thing, like the tees and stuff like that. Back then, it wasn't expensive and stuff, but now it's pushed onto this other side, luxury space, where you get to use like these expensive materials and then all these other materials that just kind of like elevate the actual clothing, the material itself. But what I'm thinking is, forget the material stuff. Like that's just like the basis for a luxury streetwear. Everyone wants to use like premium kind of materials, but
If you don't, you're not gonna get anywhere.
yeah.
Right?
But then now it's like, why don't we elevate it more than the physical? Let's go like psychological, like whatever message you're trying to push out, and all of that. That's why human wear is about the pursuit of greatness, and very inwards. It's like a way for me to question or get people to question what their purpose is, because it's difficult to know what your purpose is. Even for me, I'm sure for you too. Like it took like a long journey for you, but to find what really clicks.
Yeah.
And
Lots of mistakes and everything. As well,
yeah,
right?
that's all part of it, because that's for me as well. Like how I even stumbled into fashion and starting my own brand. It was a long ass journey. So yeah. So for you, what do you think streetwear is missing?
Yeah, I mean, this is a super hard question, I think, because I think it's changed so much that over time it's like picked up new elements of things. But like you just kind of reminded me of what the origins of it were, and it was like this big community focused thing for people like in the streets, right, in your environment. I think it's just become a bit cliquey now, in general. So not like London or Australia or anything like that, but like there's a lot of gatekeeping. I think I talked about this on the last podcast. Like people don't want to like work together and all this sort of stuff. I think if you go back to like those roots of like the culture of streetwear, I think in all this like change and transformation and all this stuff, like it's great, but you've missed the mark on why streetwear came about and like the origins, if that makes sense. It's just become kind of this thing that doesn't really have a tight-knit community as a whole anymore, if that makes sense.
Okay, yeah, because it's like you're kind of like secluded in your own little bubbles.
Kinda, yeah. And because so many people are doing it, it's so easy to like to not like care about what anyone else is doing or like not.
Yeah, that's true.
Do you know what I mean? Like, whereas before, I was like less people were doing it, so it's easier to work with people. It's easier to kind of like, I don't know, find people and discover like new artists and things like that. Whereas now it can be a bit dog eat dog in a way as an industry. I don't know if you found the same, but yeah, for me, especially coming to like a new country and stuff, it's quite difficult to just get exposure. Probably not just for fashion anyway, it's probably for every business, but I think if it could trend towards that kind of everyone's on the same kind of journey or whatever it is thing.
Yeah, because it's like
that would be quite cool.
We're all in the same boat, and then everyone's fighting.
Exactly, yeah.
Like where to go, but we're all going the same.
Exactly,
place.
yeah. I think that's what I mean. I don't know how you'd fix that. But that's kind of in my head. The answer I could think of.
Cool.
So for you, how has streetwear changed during your lifetime? It's probably the same lifetime, right?
Streetwear, yeah. To be fair, yeah, because when I was growing up, I grew up in Philippines, so for the first 7 years, I don't know if streetwear was a thing back then, but obviously, maybe it wasn't even labeled streetwear back then. But I was exposed to, because obviously Philippines, we were colonized by America, so then there's a lot of American stuff in there already. So I was already kind of like introduced to that, and then moving to the UK, I think I still had that in me. So all the American stuff kind of, it's what captured my attention. So I wasn't really even into the UK scene at all. The music,
I barely knew
culture.
the UK scene when I was in Melbourne, to be honest.
Yeah,
I have
yeah,
no
yeah.
idea what I was
Now UK
expecting.
is always
Yeah.
second. That's the thing with like trends and whatnot.
Yeah.
It's always like America that's pushing all the stuff.
Yeah.
But how it's changed, I don't know. It's weird because streetwear is them things where you can have those looks now, and then 10, 20 years ago still looks the same. So literally the clothes from 20 years ago, 30 years ago, you can bring them here and you fit in just right.
Or their cycle, like.
Yeah, there's also a cycle,
yeah.
but then with streetwear, because it's so broad, like you mentioned, that there isn't really, there's trends, but then in terms of what streetwear is, it's sort of just like timeless. Like it's just always there.
So, and you mentioned like UK follows the US in like most cases. Do you think that's still true? Because I think the UK has its own kind of style in a way.
I think
or
now
London anyway.
Yeah, I think now it's like slowly they're doing their own thing and stuff. Especially like Clint doing his, like how he's pushing out his brand, Cortez and stuff. But I think in terms of like just culture still, it's always with the America. So for you, how do you think that streetwear has changed?
Yeah, I mean, like I said before, I think it's like a bit more exploratory now. So I feel like streetwear, especially like on the independent level where people are like starting out, was always quite basic. Like everyone's kind of saturated the market with like t-shirts, hoodies, jumpers and stuff. Yeah. But now like people are just generally getting more creative. And I think like as people can learn more from the internet and all this sort of thing. And like, it's so easy to set up like a Shopify now or to learn Illustrator, to buy a sewing machine and learn it quite easily, not easily, but you can learn how to sew and things like that. So you can experiment a bit more. And I think that's just kind of sort of driven over like the last 10, 15 years, like a bit more.
It's very accessible.
Yeah, everything's accessible, right? So you can experiment a bit more. So I think that's how it's changed, and it's becoming more acceptable now to be a bit more different.
Like that's true.
You could try and stand out now and just not stand out. And if anything, if you try and stand out, you kind of conform more, so you're not standing out in a way.
Yeah, it's weird. It's very weird. It's like
so I think that's how it's changed a little bit, yeah, for me.
I'm Galanacci.
I'm Nate.
Thank you for watching
Ready to Talk.
When I think of London Fashion Week, a lot of like influencers and American celebrities were coming here, and I find that it's almost like when they come here, they leave with a whole new style.
Yeah.
And I love that because it's like nobody in British culture is restricted to a specific style. Whereas over in America, let's say if Kim K wears a dress, everybody's wearing that dress.